I was trying to think my way into playing good poker. And now I'm just like attentive. I'm just trying to be present and enjoy the game and not take it too seriously, take it with a sense of humor. Maybe that takes me back to actually when we had the old BitB, and I had a I had kind of a decision to make. Like I had a bunch of people around me at the time um, who wanted to form this kind of a study group, or like, yeah, this kind of study group. And I actually decided that I'm not going to join. I was going to join at first, but then I realized that there was actually more negatives to joining than positives, and it was revolved around a certain mindset and maybe a little bit of toxicity
Mhm.
as well. And yeah, I turned it down, and then after that, um, I don't know, I ran insanely well online and got all the results in the world, but I also kind of found a lot of freedom. I felt like I was able to play with kind of like a weight lifted off my shoulders. Like I still had Elmerix and Pads who have always kind of been around, but there was some guys who I just left behind at this point. And yeah, it lifted my game to a completely new level. And it's also, I think, very important. I've read quite a few spiritual books, and just the kind of energy that you bring, and the positivity and just the mindset. And I feel like with Elmrix and Pads, it's very matched, but with some of this other part of the group, it really wasn't there. And I have nothing like bad to say about them as people or anything like this. It's just sometimes it just doesn't work out. You don't really click with someone on
Mm.
that level, and you don't necessarily want to be speaking to these people um, every day if you don't feel that kind of deeper connection. And yeah, I think that's kind of what made me play on a way better level that I ever thought that I could have ever reached playing poker. And that's kind of when things skyrocketed in a good way.
When you say that you don't really make click, do you mean like you just didn't really feel a good vibe with the group, or was it mainly like their approach to poker? Like I think you kind of sidewayed from the solvers to this conversation. Was it that like they were way more like GTO oriented, follow the solver, and you felt that maybe like your curiosity or maybe your creativity with how you approach poker was kind of being threatened?
Yeah, it was a bit of both. It was a lot of I kind of see poker as like an art form. You kind of get to express yourself, and you get to try things out. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. And I'm the type of guy who has learned through a lot of experience and books to not be very judgmental towards myself if I make mistakes. Like I'll acknowledge, honestly and objectively that it's a mistake, but I'm happy to make a mistake if I can learn something from it. So I'm happy to take
Mm.
the risk in trying something new, and then maybe it being a really good thing. Um, but not then afterwards judging myself. And I think in this group, I kind of lost my creativity a little bit, and I kind of lost that love and passion for the game. So I was kind of just, maybe a little bit like scared to play in a way, like you just wanted to play in a certain way. So this group was, kind of happy with the decisions that you were making. So you kind of lost a part of yourself, and yeah, I found that was hugely detrimental to my game and just well-being and everything related to the game.
So it was kind of like you had to play in the way that the whole group agreed to play or something.
Yeah, kind of, it was just, frowned upon if you would take certain lines that the solver wouldn't basically agree with. So it was kind of like a very closed-minded approach and not really seeing the bigger picture. And yeah, that just wasn't something for me. And happy that I was able to go on my own path and still remain with Elmerix and Pads, who obviously have very open and strong minds in the game.
You mentioned that you learn a lot from your mistakes. Do any big mistakes stand out that you maybe repeatedly made that in the end turned out to be great lessons?
Um, Big mistakes that I've made that stood out. I'm trying to think of there's so many different hands that come to mind where I've made like big blunder or whatever and then learned a lot from it. But I guess like the like I can't really recall any single mistake, but I think I would say that I've changed my approach to how I play and how I think about the game. I think beforehand I was going into my sessions, I was trying to think my way into playing good poker
Mm.
and trying too hard and overthinking in like pretty much every spot and trying to maybe memorize some chart or whatever else. And now I'm just trying to be attentive. I'm just trying to be present and enjoy the game and not take it too seriously, take it with a sense of humor. So I think I don't really recall any like there isn't really any huge mistake that stands out in itself, but it's just like the whole approach has completely changed to how I view and play the game.
Basically, in the mindset which you were in the past, that kind of led to certain mistake, and you kind of figured out I could maybe in the beginning you tried that, right? Oh, I shouldn't do this anymore. I shouldn't do that. It sounds very like I'm sharing my own experience here as well. Where at some
Yeah,
point you realize, wait, all these mistakes that I'm making, they all come from I'm approaching the game in the wrong mindset. I'm in the wrong state of mind, and therefore
sure.
I make this approach. So when you then try to solve all these mistakes by saying I shouldn't do this, I should do that, you're trying to solve the same problem with kind of the same mindset. Sometimes you need a different approach. Did you do anything consciously different as well with how you would go into a session, for example? Like a sort of let's call it like a pre-session routine. Did you change anything there?
Yeah, I mean, in the past, if I'd make like a big scoop, 10K, 25K final table, and there would be like a million first or whatever, I would be kind of consciously or unconsciously worrying about I have to play these spots right. There's going to be a huge audience watching and all my friends and even family and I want to be nailing every ICM spot, blah blah. And I would look through like solvers and look at what the outputs would be. And then on the final table, you would end up actually overthinking a lot of the spots and playing way, way worse. And nowadays, what I'll do is I'll just leave it. Like I'll make the final table and I'll trust myself 100%. And then when I go into the final, like I'll take an hour walk before I play the final, nothing else. So I'll go play a paddle game maybe with some friends, and I won't really think too much about the game. And I think that approach has made me play so much better on these finals, like just so much better. And I also at some point when I stopped approaching the game this way, I kind of lost the fear of making a mistake. So if I'd make some kind of mistake on the final table, like some hand that I called wasn't a call, I was just say, oh, that's life, you live and you learn, and it's not too serious. So I think that was a huge one for me. Like there's a couple of recent final tables where I had exactly that approach and I just felt so comfortable and so calm and collected and had like really good reads and just felt like I really wanted to be there. And sometimes in the past I didn't necessarily feel like I wanted to be there. I feel like I kind of wanted to just get it over with kind of thing because I wasn't really enjoying the experience because of all the pressure that I kind of unconsciously put on myself, you know?